to the Dreaming Machine. This is Joe. I'm with Amy.
Hi, everyone.
And after waxing lyrical about our love of Hilda Season 1, this is our deep dive into Season 2. Now, I just wanted to say, before we get into each episode, Amy, so we watched both seasons in anticipation of this recording, and I made a big statement.
Good call.
Oh, it's always a good call. And I made a big statement at the end of the Season 1 recording that I thought I love both series, but I maybe just preferred Season 2. I love both series, and I think Season 2 is my favourite overall episodes, but I've kind of softened on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting as we talk through it, kind of thing. Because I think it's a great series that ties together, and has some really great drama in it as we go, and we'll go into that as we go episode by episode. But also, it has some standalone adventures too. And I just forgot how fantastic Season 1 was as well. So
yeah, Season 2 has some good continuity, and it has a few standout episodes.
Yeah, so it's interesting, rewatching it and how opinions develop. Really, we might as well get into each episode then. So what I really like about the series, and this is a nice way to start talking about episode 1, I think, is the Trollberg Safety Patrol.
We should probably start with the initial setup, because at the very start you've got Hilda off on the kind of antics she gets up to, heading out, having adventures, and she ends up running into some trolls fairly close to the city. And that's unusual, and that's kind of setting up a running theme for the season. But when she gets home, it also sets up another running theme for the season, which is trust. Did you notice this?
Yes.
Yeah, because Hilda's not very good with being honest about things. With all of this stuff, she tries to protect Joanna from it, and this season's where things start coming back on her for that.
Yeah, I think you've hit on a couple of big themes quite early with the whole series. The trust, especially between Hilda and the mother, and getting into that relationship. And then very simply, the other big theme is trolls. Why? Why? Who?
Yeah. And we get introduced, there's these things set up, but then it all gets interrupted, and Hilda's kind of saved from being caught out on her lying by the arrival of the character you were about to mention. I just have in my notes, in big bold capital letters, Zap Brannigan.
Yeah, and Zap Brannigan's a brilliant addition to any show. I think we'll all agree.
He really is just pure Zap Brannigan.
I didn't make that connection, Amy, but that's a really good point, isn't it? They've got so many similar traits.
Character-wise, I think they really drive it home with the Zeppelin ride that he takes Hilda on.
Yes.
So Hilda's won a safety patrol essay contest for her her wonderful writing about her encounter with the troll in Season 1.
And that's a little reference to how we'll learn more about trolls when the whole series started with that. And it's this thing that's kind of been in the background, but we're now going to delve into that. And writing an essay is really cute as well as a general thing. It's a nice way to start things off. We have these fantastical adventures, but still quite a grounded beginning to these adventures. And it's kind of we get the journey from her excitement to her disillusionment, I think, over the episode. That was a big theme for me.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, you really get the sense of the Zap Brannigan-ness of this character. Eric Alberg, just so I don't just end up calling him Zap Brannigan the whole time. You may remember one of his ancestors from the statue that, as I recall, is still really badly broken from that Season 1 episode.
So it's already a little hint to his character. Yeah, that's a good point, Amy.
And the Zeppelin ride brings us back to the clouds. It's been a while since we saw those weather spirits.
So there's a lot of like revisiting like things like that, aren't there? But like from a different angle.
I like that they establish so many things about the world in one-off episodes in season 1, which you keep seeing again in season 2. It always keeps coming back to them. It makes it feel like you've got world building going on properly, where like this is a world where all of these things are elements.
It has enough world building to work. I think it works quite well. I think the king of world building for me is probably Avatar, because of the way it's all like interconnected and like just very subtle, very clever references. You don't even realize were there until you rewatch it and you see little things. So in quite meaningful ways, there's a lot of world building. I think Hilda does that to an extent, but a lot of it is just like cute references, I think. And these like kind of different creatures like living like independently. I think the exception is trolls, obviously, and how they, interact with the new patrol and the bells and the history of.
I think you find quite a few things that they set up do come back and end up being significant to later episodes.
True.
Certainly with things like the weather spirits and the Nissa. The Nissa especially.
Yeah, actually, that's a fair point. The whole and we'll get into this in later episodes. The whole nowhere space thing, that's brought into it a lot. So that's a big exception, to be fair. Yeah, it's. I thought it was a fun episode. Episode 1, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, but yeah, there's, as I said, here's that Brannigan moment, flying straight into a storm rather than going around it and then crashing. And then after they've crashed, they go out to the troll circle, and he insists on posing in a variety of heroic poses next to the trolls, all the way until sunset, which neatly brings us into another thing about this season, which was teased last season, all the way back in the Tide Mice episode. Bells.
Yeah, you mentioned this in the season 1 recording, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
of course back then Joanna got hired by the Trollberg Bell Company for their new big project on selling more bells.
Yeah, and maybe when I first watched the series, I should have thought, why do you need a bell company like for one specific? Like, why is that a thing? So maybe I should have gotten onto that sooner.
Yeah, because bells, which will definitely become significant later on. But we actually have a bit in this episode where they visit one of the bell towers, which is what they have there for an early warning system for trolls and to scare them off.
Yeah, and there's quite I guess like he's super Zap Brannigan, and that it kind of explains like my love for his character and the enjoyment I had when I first.
Yeah.
But there's maybe, and he ties in with the bells as well. There's a maybe a more sinister edge. Like so, Zap Brannigan,
much more sinister.
I mean, Zap Brannigan's an idiot, and he does terrible things, but kind of in adorable selfishness and like just pure humor.
I mean, this guy is also doing terrible things out of pure selfishness.
But there's more of an edge to it that he is more methodical about what he's trying to do, I think.
And more ruthless about it.
Yeah, and similar with the bells, the whole early warning system, part of the heritage versus you're essentially like, maybe torture is a strong word, but you're antagonizing the trolls and making their life very
difficult. Exactly. Yeah, there's the old belief that they drive off the trolls. They just rile them up.
And there's quite a lot of like sinister moments, melancholic moments. Like you had that in the season 1, but I kind of noticed that a bit more in season 2. So when there's that dark turn in his character, like towards the end of the episode, I thought that was quite effective. I thought, and it's great to have.
Yeah, no, I like that he wasn't just a comic relief character. He's a lot more sinister.
Yeah, and they did it early on in the season, which is the perfect timing, I thought, for that too.
Which leads us nicely into the next episode, because Hilda wants some dirt on him. And who do you go to if you want to find out someone's secrets in Trollberg?
Yeah, it's a lovely quick. It's nice to have that reunion early on as well, I think, with Woodman.
Oh, I was going to the Rat King.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry.
If you want secrets, you go to the Rat King. But that does bring Hilda back into contact with Woodman, which is nice. And for some reason, like, why would you ever, if you see Woodman gambling there after what happened in season 1, why, Hilda, would you think he had any kind of noble motivations?
Yeah. You just have to go with it, I think. Like, people get swept along in
It's like,
this.
oh yeah, I'm going to find these spirits of drowned sailors. And Hilda assumes he wants to help them, not to rob them.
I mean, it works so well, that humor, that he just constantly suckers people in, like, in the same kind of way, but the way he does it is so conniving and disarming, I think. There's a lot. They get a lot of humor out of that. You just won't stop his antics, like stop his ways at any point.
And once again, the weather spirits come into it. I do love the whole thing about how you can just rile up those weather spirits by just starting some kind of argument with them.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's a lot of fun, and as you said, world building wise before, like, it's very consistent with what's been established, so we can buy into that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a lot of fun to wind up a cloud. Like, you can't go wrong with that kind of setup, I think. Oh, well, it's not even winding up. They actually encourage one of the clouds to, like, talk as much as, like, they desire, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's a lot of fun. But the very quickly in peril, like being forced to walk off the plank, is is a classic pirate setup, I think.
Yep.
But Woodman's contribution to it is really funny and make sure it's not too hackneyed, kind of thing.
Yep, and we get a chase scene, which again has them getting the weather spirit on side with, as you said, getting the weather spirit to just talk and talk and talk. So that's really helpful. But yeah, you get the whole big chase with the ghost ship heading down the streets.
Yeah.
And then we get a nice little wrap up at the end of that with necromancy.
Yeah.
Calling back to the first season.
You see, Amy, I started off by saying saying the world building was good but superficial compared to deeper shows, and then we've highlighted in the first 2 episodes, like, several examples of very good world building in callbacks. So, maybe I've slightly maybe we should give it a bit more.
Maybe you underestimated it.
Mm.
And of course, you have you have the ending where all of this happened because Hilda wanted to get some dirt on Alberg, and in the end, he ends up being the one who takes credit for everything she did.
Yeah, for sure.
Really setting him up as the season's antagonist.
Yeah, which is great. Like, that kind of it just adds to that edge that we talked about before. I mean, there was one other thing I wanted to mention about the Jorgen. I thought it was a lot of fun about them, the notion that they're teenagers messing around.
Yeah. Oh, that was nice.
And it was kind of simultaneously, it was really sweet, but it was kind of like undercut, like, nicely, by saying, like, where on earth have you been? Like, what have you been about? But yeah, it's got a little
meeting their families again. It's a good touch.
It's a good touch, but also, yeah, I totally agree about just setting up Eric more as a character. Like, works really well too. I think that narrative drive, like, works well because it's not overdone. It's just a nice little touch to tie it all together, I think.
And then we get episode 3, where what we all realised in season 1 is confirmed because every purple-haired goth witch goes through a librarian phase.
So straight up, this is my second favourite episode of Hilda overall. I think
fair, absolutely fair.
And my favourite episode is later in the season, so I think that's why I rated season 2 very highly when I talked about it.
Can I just say one word to guess what your other favourite episode is, and we'll find out when it comes to the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jorts.
No.
Oh. Okay.
Like in a world building thing, I did a little sneaky reference to what my favourite episode was in the season 1 recording to follow Hilda's world building example. And this was obviously pre-planned and not just something I've recognised at this precise moment, Amy, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But chapter 3, yeah, the witch, chapter 3. What a fun episode! What a fun!
I love the library. I love how they're in the secret room, and then the secret room has a secret room, and that has a secret room, and so on.
Which once again confirms everything we know about how libraries work and witchcraft works.
Absolutely true. Yeah. And also, they get down into the deepest part. They find witches everywhere, and they find a trio of witches who, it cannot be denied, are the diamonds from Steven Universe.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You've got the one who's always crying. You've got the very angry one, and then you've got the absolutely intractable boss of the trio. It's the diamonds from Steven Universe.
I have not seen Steven Universe yet, I must admit. I know. It's next on my list. I'm sure there will be people listening, though, who can very much relate to what you're saying, though, Amy.
Also, this is the first episode where we actually officially get Kaiser's name.
Yes, that's right. And it's great to have a lot more time with her, I think, in this season. She was such a, she made the most of her, moments in season 1, I think. So to learn her name and...
It's nice to see her fleshed out, because she was a presence there. And whenever she was on screen, it was usually part of something interesting. And you always wanted to know more about her.
She's likable, but she does have that, tough librarian edge to her that...
Oh wow, that tough librarian edge.
I stand by that description. Just that slightly stern, watchful way kind of thing. She's not happy-go-lucky kind of thing. She is very much her own character, and she's kind of I love her she has irritation with Hilda and Frida. It's not like a joy.
Oh, her irritability is it's nice. It's good that there's
I think it adds a lot to it. It's a lot of fun to watch them go, because I think Hilda and Frida are great together, but the way they rub off, clash with her a little bit, and how they get brought into this unholy mess of this late library book. We have to remember this is all down to a late library,
an unreturned book. Yeah, I mean it's the rules. It's been 30 years. The book hasn't been returned. So the librarian has to be cast into the void of no return. That's how it works in libraries.
I mean, late library books are probably a big fear for a lot of people. I think that's fair to say. I'm thinking of other shows.
They're a big deal.
I think it was the Tatami Galaxy by Yuasa. The Tatami Galaxy has this big thing about this the secret police. There's this police force undercover for people who have late library books. It's that big thing. It's
nice.
a big tension in one of the episodes. And I totally identify with this. It is. I mean, maybe they take it a little
serious matter.
Yeah, maybe they take it a little bit far in terms of the potential punishment. I don't know. It is a serious matter. I agree.
It is wonderful though, because this gives us the impetus for a nice little romp with a whole bunch of puzzles that end up end up pretty much all being solved by Frida.
So it does a couple of nice things there. Yeah, it has the idea of going through puzzle rooms is just tons of fun. I love that in general.
Did you like shows like Nightmare as a kid?
Oh yeah, like everyone did, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Escape rooms and things like that. But it also quietly and subtly establishes, well, maybe not subtly, but establishes Frida as like the driving force, and it makes sense at the end of the episode for her to go on that path to becoming a witch. So that works really well.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's nice that the resolution to that is that, like, Frida gets her thing.
Yeah.
It's not all about the main character.
Which, I totally agree with you. It makes sense, doesn't it?
And this also introduces us to Tildy, and Tildy's great.
Yeah. And then a callback as well. Because we see a brief, we see a very brief.
We saw Tildy in season 1,
yeah. And I love how she's very dismissive. Like there's just so many great moments about being having that doddery like stereotype around her, but also being very tough with the three like overzealous like head witches and saying, "Oh, for Pete's sake."
Yeah, because at the end of the day, she has no time for their stuff, and yeah, she's someone who'll stand up to them.
And there's a lot of I love the reveal when they go outside her house and see that the Kaiser's just playing with Tildy's pet. Basically, that's what the last monster was. I thought that was a lot of fun.
It was the gardener.
The gardener, not even pet, gardener, correct. And then there's a great action scene at the end. So they actually go for the pit of doom.
Yep, they're dropped into the void, but I love how, again, like, they figure out, like, Frida's able to figure a solution for them, which involves the stuff they learned along the way through the episode.
Yeah, it's not random. It ties together really well, and it's just like the little touches, like there's a process for them getting out of that situation.
Yeah.
And like Hilda still gets a sword time, which is a nice little callback to earlier in the episode. But also just little touches like don't they open the pit by that guy playing like a bass note or something on it?
Yeah.
It's just like just silly, funny things like that. It's just it's just a really like fun's definitely the word, I think.
It's like the whole, are we voiding them or are we not? I can't just sit here all day. I love it.
So yeah, I think that's an excellent episode, and yeah, it does have a bigger impact in terms of reader's purpose and like more proactive role. I think works really well,
and it's going to set up several things for later on in the show.
So then we should probably move on to chapter 4, the Eternal Warriors.
Yeah, back to Sparrow Scout stuff.
Yeah, like not featured anywhere near as heavily, like understandably, because it took up so much of season 1.
Yeah, I mean they will still be doing some Sparrow Scout stuff for several episodes this season, but yeah,
it's just less in the foreground, I think.
It's a useful setup for why they happen to be somewhere doing something.
Yeah,
if it's for getting a badge.
And an episode focused on David.
Yes, we get we've had our Frida episode, we've had our Hilda episode, now we get a David episode.
I thought this was a fun episode. Not
so this episode.
Yeah.
This episode sets a precedent for this season of just killing characters.
I thought it was a fun episode. Bits of it worked really well. I think it's a shame that it followed like such a fantastic episode. It worked well. I mean, it just I thought one of the best bits
was more of a self-contained one-off episode.
Yeah, and it was a bit more random. I mean, I also loved. It sounds horrible. I loved the character being killed, but it was that was quite funny. Like,
Oh no, absolutely.
yeah,
Just
there's a nice little twist,
just
isn't
the
it?
fact that you've got all of these Vikings who just keep coming back from the dead after being all sorts of butchered, and the fact that David joins them and it ends up happening to him as well. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a lot. The never-ending battle's great, and that's a lot of fun. And the kind of the a swamp monster who's just like weary of it. Just like I think the rationale for why he kept doing it was so mundane. That was really funny too.
Yeah.
Like when he stands back and thinks about it, it's maybe this isn't like maybe this is a little bit pointless, and he's just so chilled about it, and even lets them play about with the reviving potion.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of nice touches like that. Also, the other big thing for me was the soft rock love of David.
Ah, yeah.
Like that that was funny and nice to learn about this character. That's what gives him belief and power. So there's a lot of fun stuff. It just so it was a good episode. It just followed such a great episode. Yet it was going for the same kind of vibe. So it just kind of
It doesn't quite hit the highs that the
yeah
witch did.
yeah exactly yeah. It just wasn't quite as strong and a bit more random.
It's a nice chill episode.
It was.
The next one, however, is very interesting.
Yes, yeah, and this stood out because this wasn't just going for the same kind of vibe. This was something different.
No. So we've got Victoria Van Gale's back, and she's completely reformed, and there is absolutely no reason to question this. So let's move on. And I love the idea behind this episode of getting Frida the chance to interact with her this time, because last time that she was introduced, it was during the period where Frida wasn't hanging out with the group.
Yeah, so it's a new dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, and that really keeps it fresh.
But I like that contrast with David, who was super like not trusting her and super wary.
With absolute good reason after last time.
For sure, for sure. So that was
What possible things? Once again, you've got them showing up on a Sparrow Scout thing. She's got a bunch of birds hanging out in the windmill.
mm,
Just because she's the nice lady living in the windmill who's like, what could be wrong about that? It's all such a nice and harmless setup. And she's got this weird Nissa that she made. It's fine. It's all fine.
it's all fine. It's like I think even if you I mean, I think the vast majority of people who'll watch this season will have seen season one. But even if they hadn't, you can just there's this uneasy vibe like throughout a lot of the episode, I think.
I do like that a lot of shows will, like a lot of kids like shows, will try to reform a character like this when they bring them back.
Mm.
And this show subverts that. It's like, oh no, like she's learned her lesson, and then you think it's doing the thing where it's like trying to set up something sinister, and then it's not. But then no, it really is something sinister again. You always have that doubt there, that sense that they're trying to like that they're gonna do the thing of like, no, it was actually innocent all along.
Like a light example of what you're saying there is Woodman. So he's not going to reform, like, and that's part of his fun. And that
Yeah.
lighter, like more comedic example, but yeah,
In Victoria's case, oh my.
and it really is to the show's credit. I agree. I mean, what I like about Hilda in general is, and you get this with good quality shows, I think they're consistent to the characters throughout,
Hmm.
and that's super important in storytelling, of course, and to drive forward the story and to make it seem real, like real. But maybe that's not the right word for for the machines and trolls and all that kind of thing. But so I think they did a good job with Victoria Van Gale's character of making it seem like she had progressed a little bit, but having that edge to it throughout, and having the different characters' reactions to her. And it's kind of maybe a slower pace episode until the ending. Is it fair to say?
It's a slow build, and then the ending really nails it.
Yeah,
And when you find out what she's doing with Nowhere Space, I genuinely hope, so once again, with this episode being, with this season going to some pretty dark places, the whole thing with with her disturbing Nissa, and like you have the whole thing where like David rips its face off,
yeah.
and it's ah,
It's yeah. That's a very powerful.
and then Victoria's swallowed up into Nowhere Space.
Yeah, it's got kind of like a creepy Frankenstein-esque vibe to the whole thing, like playing about with
Hmm.
nature, like very much so.
And then the consequences she gets. I do hope we get her back in the future.
We surely will. We sure the way it's left, we surely will. We can't just like leave her like deserted and not have. There's got to be a. There's got to be something from that. I mean, I love the.
I do wonder if, after some of the stuff we've seen in the show,
Mm,
particularly like later on, I do wonder if she's going to show up like and be significant in the resolution of the stuff at the end of the season.
ooh, that's an interesting prediction.
Mm,
I don't know. It's an
mm,
interesting one though. I love the melancholy ending, and it really like goes for that kind of different feeling to the two previous episodes. And that's the strength of Hilda, that I can do that kind of thing,
yeah, absolutely.
whilst still being something my kids can enjoy throughout. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so still very accessible, but it's kind of got a lovely. It's got that like Orville Peck's original song they did for the show at the end, which like accompanies that scene perfectly, I think.
Mm,
And it just kind of leaves it. It's not this triumphant finish. Like the characters are all kind of like just still processing, I think, like Hilda, Frida, and David,
yeah.
and then it just kind of has that like last shot really with that music. It just works so well, I think, for going for that.
Mm.
Like, not like sad or emotional feels, but it gives you the feels like in a different way. So it's an interesting, and I don't mean that disparagingly. I think it's a really interesting episode, genuinely, and a different kind of feel than a lot of the other episodes in it.
So then episode 6, The Old Bells of Cholberg, brings us back to that overarching plot from the first couple of episodes.
Yeah.
We have the Sparrow Scouts again.
Yes.
This time watching the Waff migration. I love the Waffs.
There's a lot more direct interaction at the start. That's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Waffs are the most adorable things. I wish Waffs existed in this world.
I would not ride on one in the air though. It doesn't seem very safe or aerodynamic. I know they fly really gracefully, but it still doesn't feel aerodynamic to me or particularly secure.
It's really horrible though when the bells start and you're just watching all the Waffs crash.
Exactly, yeah. So it kind of, yeah, you can see from the other perspective how annoying they'll be and like how disruptive they are. They're such cute creatures. It's horrible to see that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some quick peril for the main characters to deal
Save
with.
the
No.
Waffs. Save the Waffs.
I think that needs to be a thing. Is that a thing? Is that a meme? It should be a meme.
It should be a thing, yeah.
Internet, do your work. And we're introduced to a new character. The I can't remember his name, except he's a gruff bell tower guy, and like so he's kind of like switch up. I mean, so I quite enjoyed the interaction with his character, knowing like and trying to work out what side of like if he's on the good or the bad side. And there's kind of like a it's like kind of like a heist plan they have to concoct as well, which I thought was a lot of fun. So it has some like nice elements to it, I think, this episode.
Yeah, it does have the whole thing of like when it comes to the bell ringer, like obviously, he's got his own interests in getting rid of the mechanical bells,
Yeah.
given that that's his job, but also like that happens to also align with the best interests of absolutely everyone who isn't called Eric Alberg. I could not stand the bell ringing myself. I can just about deal with like the cathedral. That's it for me. Not going off every day,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, and they get that across, don't they? Like how goddamn irritating it would be if it was like that.
I mean, they make a point of how it's interfering with everyone's lives. You got you've got you got the Woffs, you've got the Lost Clan, you've got the Nissa. You've even got Joanna. Her works like she's had a hard job staying awake doing her work, as I recall, and then she's working on a blueprint for the new bell tower.
Yeah, there's this weirdly sinister edge to the bells.
There's nothing weird about it. It's just sinister.
Yeah, it's got a sinister side to it, as you say correctly.
Also, David gets top points here for his name for the plan. Operation Deer Fox Thunder Team.
I think if you're going to do a very like carefully crafted plan like that, you should give it a cool name.
David needs to be allowed to name more of their plans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love that whole infiltration they do though,
Mm.
especially when they get in there and they sabotage it and the plan works,
Yeah,
and then the backup it turns out to be there.
but that's a common thing, isn't it? So you have like a heist
Yeah,
plan, you have a plan set up, then there's always
it
some.
all goes according to plan, and then there's the twist.
Yeah, there's always something like that, and you have to improvise, and it's good to be original, but sometimes it's just fun to play around with those tropes, and
Yeah,
like
you've got to have the tropes. Yeah.
yeah, and that's fine.
Ah, unfortunately, like I'm sorry, I do not believe I my suspension of disbelief at the ending though, when the bell falls on Alberg at just the right angle not to squash him.
That'd be a bit brutal, wouldn't it? If he was crushed by the bell,
I'm sorry, have you seen what happens to some of the characters in this season?
which we'll get into. True, and it would be there'd be a delicious irony to it. I think that's ironic. Yeah, let's go with that.
Mm. And then yeah, even after they manage to resolve everything though, Alberg still carries on with the bell plan, and we have a little setup teasing the next episode because the underwater bell rings and something under the water wakes up.
So chapter 7, Beast of Cauldron Island, which so nicely set up, as you say, by the end of the previous episode. The thing that really stuck out to me was Hilda and her mother's relationship, plus a little
Yeah,
callback as well to bits of season 1. So I think the setup was good, but it was a bit like, oh, we need a new peril. Like that's kind of unconnected. Like so, so it was fun. It was, but it's more the bigger impact on the characters that I found most interesting about this episode. I think. But it starts off with it's a heavy on Hilda and Frida this episode, doesn't it? And investigating.
yeah. And Woodman comes back
Yeah,
because yeah, last time we saw Woodman, he had his new boat, and as of this point, he doesn't have his boat anymore, or anything else, including his body.
which is a bit of a hindrance.
Once again,
Mm.
characters just getting all sorts of like chopped up in this season, just
Yeah,
decapitating Woodman.
like a lot of the main characters go through like hell in this season. I think. Yeah, I think that's very
They
true.
really do.
Yeah,
But yeah, Alberg's all set to go after the Lindworm, blaming it for sinking all the boats. But of course, all the good guys know the Lindworm wouldn't do that.
mm,
And even Woodman knows, because Woodman saw the attack on his boat.
yeah. It's a nice little like It's another mystery to solve, isn't it? Which is part of the fun. Like you have to work for. You kind of roughly know what's going on. That it's not like as straightforward as the setup's presenting. But you have to you go with like Hilda, David, well Hilda and Frida in this case, but the main three to work out the solution.
And there's a lot of interaction between all the various groups and characters as well.
Yeah,
So much in this episode. You've got Alberg and the Safety Patrol.
yeah,
You've got the Lindworm. You've got Woodman. You've got the Lost Tribe. And you've even got the Drogon involved.
yeah, and they even do the water transport as well, don't they?
The water spirits, yeah.
Yeah, which I love that as well. I thought it was such a lovely visual and a magical touch. So I'm glad they brought that back. I think you're right. That's a good point. It covers a lot of ground and a lot of groups,
Yeah.
isn't it? And it's nice that they're benefiting from the fact they've already established who these guys are and
all of these characters and groups. Yeah,
they can just have fun with them and serve the plot without distracting too much or jumping around too much.
Yeah, and then so we find out it's a kraken, and of course, because this is Hilda, that the bell woke the kraken up, and the kraken's trying to protect its children.
They have to do a quickly improvised plan.
It's a good plan.
Yeah, but you have that trope as well, don't you? Of the whole town being like misguided.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adds to the jeopardy of it, doesn't it?
And after they resolve it all, that's when the consequences hit home finally, because Joanna spoke to Raven Leader.
That scene, I noticed this on the second watch more. That scene is really well done. Like Johanna's like confrontation with Hilda, and you just got little moments like when Tontu like just quietly leaves, like at the start of the discussion.
Yeah,
sensing it, you know. Yeah, and they got like you can see just Johanna from like different angles, like in the build up to it.
And she's right. She's absolutely in the right. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like Hilda has been lying to her this entire season.
It's kind of it's sort of fleshing out the consequences of that, aren't they? Like you have like other shows and books and all kinds of things where the main character like fibs in order to go on an adventure and solve some magical thing. But it's like it's dangerous when lying becomes a normal thing, especially with someone.
There's only so long you can keep it up to as well, because sooner or later there's going to be enough holes in your story that someone's going to put things together.
And I think it's bad on a personal level if lying becomes a norm. Like it's not even. You don't even feel the gravity of doing that. It's just like normal practice, you know.
She's just casually, constantly lying to Joanna.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
And this is one of the closest like people to her in the world.
I mean, it's one thing to like with the school and the scouts and things, but when even after it's all done and dusted, you still can't just tell the truth about it and relate. And you really feel for Johanna because she's trying her best. She's trying to be like level and like respectful and not be the kind of mum she doesn't.
She is, yeah.
But she kind of like Hilda's taking it too far, and then they show that
Hilda is absolutely taking the piss.
But they've established Hilda's character enough that she's a free spirit. She wants to do these adventures. She wants to be the hero. And she's had.
And they've established enough with Joanna that she's supportive of that.
Yeah. So I think it does a good job of showing Johanna's correct. I think, but it still shows Hilda's side.
Yeah.
And, you know, child-parent relationship, especially at that age, and having strong-willed characters. Like, I think they do a good job of, like, showing why she would push against that and why she keeps doing this, even though it's not the right thing to do. But yeah, she is. She's taking it too far.